Good morning, Algebra. Today we're going to continue to solve quadratic equations by factoring. Okay, today we're going to look at what happens if when you factor you see a difference of two squares. So we're just continuing to review factoring and factoring and factoring. It will come up all the time in everything, in so much of the math that you have coming. Factoring will just keep appearing, and solving quadratic equations by factoring will keep appearing over and over and over. So learning your factoring, memorizing it, knowing the names of everything makes a huge difference. Okay, so we're going to take a look at what happens if we have difference of two squares that shows up in an equation. So the very first thing we do, as always, is move everything to the left equals 0. So I know I have a lot on this board today. Let's see if we can just focus in on one thing at a time. So I have an original equation of 4y squared equals 81. Okay, 4y squared equals 81. So I moved everything to the left. 4y squared minus 81 equals 0. And then I see here a difference of two squares. I see two terms. I see a perfect square on the left and a perfect square on the right, separated by a minus sign. This tells me, alert, alert, difference, the minus of 1, 2 perfect squares. Awesome, that's so easy to factor. Conjugates. So 2y minus 9 times 2y plus 9. And then I'm solving an equation, so I need to know what y could equal to make that equation work. Well, in this case, it could equal positive 9/2. And in this case, it could equal negative 9/2. So there's my answer right there. Okay, does that make sense? Great, let's look at this one over here. So I have 16 over 49 minus x squared equals 0. Well, the first step is done for me. Everything is already on the left. So I took a look and I see 16 over 49. This is a fraction, but it's also a perfect square. The numerator is a perfect square. The denominator is a perfect square. So I have perfect square minus perfect square. Awesome. Conjugates, factor to conjugates. So 4 over 7 minus x, 4 over 7 plus x. So the answer is that x for this factor could equal 4/7, and for this factor could equal negative 4/7. All right, let's take a look over here. So I've got 64p squared equals 9. Again, move everything to the left so that it equals 0. That's what I have right here. 64p squared minus 9 equals 0. Again, I see perfect square minus perfect square. What is the name of that again? Difference of two squares. Say it. Difference of two squares. Again, difference of two squares. Okay, good. So I see that. It factors to conjugates. 8p minus 3 times 8p plus 3. If I took 8p minus 3 and I set it equal to 0 on my paper, then I would find that p could equal 3/8. And from here, p could equal negative 3/8. All right, let's take a look at this last one. I have 27n to the third equals 48n. I'm always going to follow the very first step. Move everything to the left. Everything to the left equals 0. So I'm off to the side here. Maybe I'll switch sides. Okay. Move everything to the left equals 0. So 27n to the third minus 48n equals 0. The very first step of factoring that I want to follow every time if I can, which is all the time, which I can, is to take out a greatest common factor if there is one. Because when I look at 27 and 48, I don't see perfect squares, but I do see a greatest common factor of 3. So I pulled out, and n to the third and n, there's an n in there, so I pulled out my greatest common factor. 3n times 9n is 27n to the third. Oh, sorry, there's a squared right there, isn't there? I missed my little squared. And 3n times 16, negative 16 is negative 48n. So you can see that I pulled out a GCF. Well, now remember, if I factor completely, I need to look at what is in the parentheses so that I can factor it further if it's necessary. So I took 9n squared minus 16 and split that into 3n minus 4 and 3n minus 4. Now I have 1, 2, 3 factors to consider. And remember that n to the third up here told me that there would be 3 solutions, because the fundamental theorem of algebra tells me that that the highest exponent tells me how many solutions there are. So this 3n equals 0 gives me 0. 3n minus 4 gives me 4/3. 3n plus 4 gives me negative 4/3. Okay, does that make sense? Let's see. So we are factoring, we're solving quadratic equations by factoring over and over. This will continue to come up, okay? Solve quadratic equations by factoring. Difference of two squares is the task of the day, is the concept of the day, so look for that in each one of the problems that you do. I will give you, of course, some examples that I write out, so go for it. Enjoy your day.